You can hear the reception from the protesters to the water cannon truck. And what they say they are trying to do is to clear the barricades and the banners that have been put up all around the outside of this square to move protesters back into their park. But as you can see from the response here, the protesters don't believe them. They think the police are gearing up to move their camp, and in that camp are a wide variety of people. The people you see out here on the front lines of this are the younger, the harder core of the activists, but in the protest camp there are families, there are children, there are people who have been living in there for 12 days. You can see the police walking in front of the water cannon here. They're pre-positioning up to the north of the square where they do have significant numbers. And how they have been working, as I say, it's been pretty methodical. They've been moving the protesters in front of them, trying to create what they call a sterile zone to make an area that's safe for them to operate in. And then they're coming in behind with earth-moving equipment to clear out the barricades that have been built across the entrances to the square. Both the protesters here and the more moderate parts of the AKP party really thought that there would be some form of compromise. I mean, the background to this, to anyone who hasn't been following, you can see the armoured Land Rovers moving past us here. To anyone who hasn't been following this, this started as a small environmental protest to try to stop the park at the centre of this square from being turned into a shopping centre. It was the police action there, what they say was police brutality, that brought the protesters here in the first place in numbers. But what it has become is a protest about civil liberties, about the direction that Prime Minister Erdogan is leading this country, what they see as an increasingly authoritarian rule. So whilst it started in that park, it has become about so much more. That's why people are here in so many numbers. But I think they did think there would be some form of compromise. He was away, he was visiting North Africa for 4 days. So you can see the police marching up behind us with their riot shields, repositioning to the top of the square here. They did think there would be some form of compromise, that there would be some sort of conciliation, there could be an agreement about the park, but Prime Minister Erdogan has been defiant, and the statements he's been making over the weekend, he had indicated that there were limits to the government's patience. His exact words were that we have been patient, we remain patient, but there is a limit to the government's patience. We appear to have reached the point today, the end of the government's patience. They seem to be determined to clear these protests, to reclaim this square. But you can see the reception they're getting. If you go maybe 500 metres from this square, life is going on as normal. People are operating their businesses. People are going to work, even past here in this square. What this is a section of society. It's predominantly the young people, the people they're calling Generation Y, because they are questioning for the first time Prime Minister Erdogan's rule. And he has been in power here for the best part of a decade, just over a decade, each time elected with an increasing majority. The people who are here are disproportionately the young, the middle classes, the people you would perhaps call the intelligentsia. I've met a number of teachers, academics, professionals and environmentalists who are in this square, but they have been joined each day by a much broader section. You know, there was a rally here at the weekend with 3 football clubs, with Besiktas, Galatasaray and Fenerbahce, the 3 major clubs in Istanbul. They normally hate each other, but these protests, this sense of anger with Prime Minister Erdogan, is uniting people here who are normally the fiercest of enemies. It has become about freedom of expression. The initial environmental protests that were here, that were moved on, I mean, they were a small number of environmental protesters. They were moved on by police using tear gas, smoke grenades in full, and you can see some of the people who are just on their way to work here. They were moved on with such, what they say, police violence, that is what brought people down here. They say this is about basic civil rights, it's about the freedom of expression, assembly, association. This square, Taksim Square, has traditionally been somewhere for people to gather. It's very heavily associated with the founder of the modern Turkish Republic, Mustafa Kemal Atatürk. So they are here exercising their right to gather, exercising their right to make their voices heard. You can see from the numbers of people around us, you know, they are determined. They are coming now in numbers because word is spreading. They're using social media to get their message out. Word is spreading to other parts of this city to come down here to support the protesters in Taksim Square.